Welcome and good evening. I'm going to talk about conflict at work. Conflict can be seen in everybody's experience in several different ways as we live and go into the workplace and meet other individuals. To avoid conflict, there are pitfalls in the roads that we travel. Avoiding those common controllers who are campaigners of conflict, people who causes us or individuals to fall or not do what should be done will always have some type of conflict with individuals that we meet. There are three types of conflict: personal conflict, substantial conflict, and procedural conflict. These three types of conflict are personal, group, and individuals where conflict happens. Personal conflict is problems that we have virtually it's a role of the workplace, personal conflict that could be abused by substance, conflicts with child care, family problems, where conflict between two or more people occur is where conflict happens. There's a mutual dislike causing someone to clash with someone else. Conflict creates valuable lost time and work hours in the workplace. And when conflict cannot be settled, we must understand that the path that we take must be one that causes us to avoid having conflict in our life. Substantial conflict can often relate especially to projects or goals surrounding organizational team members to perform tasks and compelling the conflict that's there can be recognized as personal conflict where issues around our personal disagreements won't come together, so we'll have those disagreements where the problems seem to be individuals between members of individual teams on the same team or separate teams is where this conflict happens. We need to learn how to manage the interests of others when this kind of conflict takes place in the workplace. Procedural conflict relates to the means that we're not able to accomplish goals that we set since none of these conflicts are the same. Procedural conflict seems to be the one where we could get more out of it than the others. Procedural conflict is unlike the others where with we need an airplane, a bus, or a vehicle, or if we're running or walking or some other way to get around or to get to a destination, these things do not have a track to run on. And when I say a track to run on, having a train that has a track, and on a track, a train stays headed towards destination. And the only way it does not get there is because of some adverse situation. And then we're not able to reach our goals, and we're either stopped or delayed as we reach out to meet that goal. And that's what has happened over in the cases that we've read and studied. Procedural conflict needs to be part of that. Procedural conflict is the crust or the crutch that holds conflict together and avoids the pitfalls that we encounter in our conflict of life. With the procedural conflict, we can have team success. Jumping to conclusions that will lead to confusion is the reason for selecting the procedural conflict. It seems to have the solution or the better ways to resolve the issues is through procedural conflict. We know that internal conflicts in life can change people's thinking and the way they do things. And the quote says, if the team is to be successful, the team members need to resolve or manage personal conflict and work through the sustainable and procedural conflict in order to reach a sufficient agreement on the desired performance outcome of the procedure. And that's by Hill, Cloverdale, and Miller, page 362 of our text. Take Moses, for instance. He was a grown man when we're looking at his life around the Egyptians, compared to the modern day man who becomes puzzled with the conflicts that occur. There are many times that conflict is the reason for not being able to accomplish a goal. With all the workers they had during Moses' time, and there seemed to be little conflict because they had a track they could follow, a way they could go, and just a procedure that did not cause them individuals to hate one another. They had to work together as a team, and that is something that is lacking to today's world, is working together as a team. When we think about the way Moses and them did things back when they built the pyramids, it was a team effort. It was a group effort. It was a village effort. We look now at the way they put up skyscrapers and everything around them. You see fewer than a dozen workers. When during Moses' time, there were several thousand workers working on one project. Today, today we may wonder, how could a people so long ago not to have had more conflicts, and yet they built such amazing structures thousands of years ago that they do today, but it takes even longer and so much conflict to get it done. And they don't have that problem. They didn't have that problem over 2,000-3,000 years ago. It's only in modern day time where this conflict seems to flourish among humanity. Now, after reviewing the three cases on page 404 in the text, I found the problem was none of the three cases had an agenda in either case. I believe this was the problem that caused much of their conflict. Having a track to stay on would allow each of the cases to work out and around the conflict issues that they had. See, a team needs some type of structure where a team could do better, to have results, accountability, commitment, to avoid conflict, and trust in one another. Having a flow chart or a flow that would aid the team to stay on track, where they can have a beginning and an end, and as long as they don't deviate from it, and they have a what ifs, and if not in this track that they follow, then they wouldn't have the problems as a team. They could do what was they were setting out to do without any problems. Since Moses was exposed to the Egyptians' way of living and the way of doing things, the conflict between the Hebrews and Egypt allowed him to understand how to reach their goals. As the architectures geniuses that they were in Moses' time, in Moses' life, he had encountered adversities and opportunities on top of adversities, and then another chance, and adversities seemed to be one of the things that kept happening in his life with conflict. But he learned to understand, he understood how to handle them. And what is set before him, he was able to overcome and be able to do what was right to get along with whatever he was doing. Now, what else happens is when there's no road to run on, there's always will be some type of conflict. But under the procedure way, we have a track to run on, something that we can't deviate from, that'll keep us going. The Egyptians had a procedure that they would follow, not getting off track as they erect their monuments for the pharaohs. It was conflict that does not appeal. It was conflict that they did not have, and it appeared that they did not have any kind of problems, or else they wouldn't have been able to erect such monuments as they have done. And I don't believe they wouldn't accept the problems of conflict in the workforce, or those pyramids would have never gotten built. This ends my presentation. I hope I was understandable. I hope something was received from it. And I hope that everyone who listens will have an understanding of what I've got out of conflict. And the procedure conflict is the way that every organizational team and workplace should have in order to get something done and accomplished in the workplace. Thank you.